Did this guy just crawl out of a prison camp? The words echo through the marble halls of the courthouse, cutting through the background noise like a blade. It's 8:43 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and the man they're mocking stands perfectly still, his dignity intact despite the cruel laughter surrounding him. His suit is wrinkled from a night in a holding cell. His wrists bear the faint red marks where handcuffs bite into his skin. But there's something about his eyes, deep, knowing, patient, that suggests a storm brewing beneath the calm surface. Officer Riley nudges his partner, Officer Henderson, pointing at the defendant's rumpled appearance. Look at him. Bet he's never seen the inside of a courtroom from this side before. Their laughter bounces off the cold marble walls, drawing stares from passers-by. The man they mock doesn't flinch, doesn't react. His silence feels deliberate, calculated, as if he's collecting every word, every snicker, every sideways glance for some future reckoning. The courthouse bustles with the usual morning chaos. Lawyers clutch coffee cups and briefcases. Defendants in orange jumpsuits shuffle through, heads down. But all eyes seem drawn to this man, tall, broad-shouldered, with skin the color of dark oak, and a presence that commands attention without demanding it. He probably thinks he's special, Henderson whispers, loud enough for others to hear. They all do. A young intern pulls out her phone, angling it to capture the suspicious character in the courthouse. Within minutes, the mockery extends beyond these walls. Shared, liked, commented on. The digital humiliation spreads while the man remains silent, watching. What these officers don't know, what nobody in this courthouse realizes, is exactly who they're ridiculing. They see only what they expect to see, a black man in trouble with the law. Their assumptions blind them to the truth standing right before their eyes. The heavy courtroom doors swing open. The bailiff calls for order. In just moments, everything these officers think they know will shatter completely. Have you ever witnessed someone being judged unfairly based on their appearance? That moment when people look at someone and see only what they expect to see? Let me know in the comments below, because today's story shows how dangerous those assumptions can be, and how spectacularly they can backfire. Courtroom 14B stands as a monument to cold justice. Polished wood panels, hard benches, and the distinct scent of lemon cleaner that fails to mask years of tension and fear that have seeped into every surface. The temperature hovers just below comfortable, a tactical choice that keeps everyone alert and slightly on edge. The defendant sits at the defense table, back straight, hands folded neatly before him. Not once does he fidget or glance nervously around. His eyes remain focused forward, occasionally making deliberate contact with the jury. 12 citizens who shift uncomfortably under his steady gaze. All rise for the Honorable Judge Eleanor Watts. The judge enters, her black robe flowing behind her like a shadow. At 68, Judge Watts has presided over more than 3,000 cases. Her reputation for fairness is matched only by her intolerance for wasted time. She settles into her high-backed chair, adjusts her glasses, and surveys the room with eyes that miss nothing. Be seated. Case number 47892, State v. Roe. Are both parties ready to proceed? The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney James Paulson, stands immediately. Ready for prosecution, Your Honor. His voice carries the confident edge of a man who's never doubted his position. At 42, his record boasts 97 convictions and only 3 losses. Ready for the defense. The voice belongs to Maya Chen, a defense attorney whose quiet demeanor masks a tactical brilliance that has overturned 17 convictions in the past 5 years. She places a protective hand near her client's arm, not touching, but present. Throughout the gallery, whispers continue. 2 court officers, Riley and Henderson from the lobby encounter, stand by the door, smirking occasionally when Judge Watts isn't looking. One mimics handcuffs behind his back when catching the defendant's eye. The court reporter's fingers click rapidly across her stenotype, capturing every word, every motion for a record that will soon become more significant than anyone anticipates. Mr. Paulson, your opening statement, Judge Watts commands. Paulson approaches the jury box with practiced ease. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is straightforward. On the night of October 17th, the defendant, Malik Rowe, was apprehended in Westwood Heights after matching the description of a suspect in a recent string of burglaries. When approached by officers Riley and Henderson, The defendant was evasive, confrontational, and unable to justify his presence in the neighborhood. The defendant, Malik Rowe, doesn't react. Not a flinch, not a headshake, nothing to indicate disagreement with these characterizations. Maya Chen watches him with curiosity evident in her expression. Most clients would be whispering objections, passing notes, showing some reaction. But Malik remains still, almost as if he's observing the proceedings, rather than participating in them. In the jury box, a middle-aged woman leans forward, her attention caught not by Paulson's confident delivery, but by the defendant's unusual composure. Judge Watts notices too. 29 years on the bench has taught her to read defendants like open books. Yet Malik Rowe presents something she rarely encounters, a completely closed volume. The evidence will show, Paulson continues, that Mr. Rowe's behavior that night was consistent with criminal intent. Officers had reasonable cause to detain and question him. For just a moment, so brief most miss it, Malik's lips curl into the smallest smile. What does he know that no one else in this courtroom has realized? Why does a man facing serious charges appear so utterly unconcerned with the proceedings that could determine his freedom? The bailiff shifts position, sensing something unusual about this case. The court reporter pauses for a fraction of a second. Even Judge Watts narrows her eyes, studying the defendant with newfound interest. The air in courtroom 14B changes. Electric, with the sense that beneath the routine proceedings, something extraordinary waits to be revealed. During the first recess, the mockery that began in the lobby grows bolder. Officer Riley pulls out his phone, gesturing for Officer Henderson to stand beside Malik as he walks past. "Yo, check out our catch of the day," Riley says loudly, camera pointed directly at Malik's face. "Premium criminal right here. Dress up nice for the judge, but we know what you really are." Malik maintains his forward gaze, neither acknowledging nor avoiding the camera. The phone follows him until Maya Chen steps between them, her face tight with controlled anger. "That's enough, officer. My client has rights." "Rights?" Henderson laughs. He waived those when he decided to prowl around where he doesn't belong. In the courthouse bathroom, 3 court clerks huddle around a phone, swiping through a series of posts. On screen, Malik's face appears in multiple angles, his expression dignified despite the mocking captions. "Found this one lurking in Westwood." Another one thinking he belongs, dressed like a lawyer, but headed for jail. A courthouse security guard joins them, adding his own commentary. "That's the guy from this morning. Henderson says he gave them attitude when they stopped him. These guys never learn." Back in the corridor, a young intern updates her TikTok. Her voice narrates over footage of Malik waiting outside the courtroom. POV, watching someone who clearly doesn't know his place, trying to act important. The comment section floods instantly. Why do they always act so entitled? "My dad's a cop and says they always resist." Bet he claims racism when he gets convicted. None of them questioned why he was arrested. None asking for evidence. The judgment has already been passed, not in the courtroom, but in the digital court of public opinion, where no defense is permitted. By lunch, the footage has spread across multiple platforms. Someone creates a meme template of Malik's serious expression with the caption, "When you think you're important, but you're about to learn." It gained 14,000 shares in under an hour. Officer Riley walks past the defense table, deliberately bumping it hard enough to scatter Maya's carefully organized notes. "Oops," he says with exaggerated concern. "My bad." The pattern is familiar. A system designed to strip dignity before guilt is ever proven. Every smirk, every accidental bump, every whispered comment reinforces the message. You don't belong here. You don't deserve respect. You are already guilty. Yet through it all, Malik's composure never wavers. If anything, his eyes grow more observant, cataloging each slight, each violation, each person participating in his public humiliation. During afternoon testimony, the bailiff leans toward another officer, whispering just loud enough to be heard. $10 says he cries when they read the verdict. His colleague grins. 20 says he tries to run. What no one notices is the slight narrowing of Judge Watts's eyes as she overhears this exchange, or the almost imperceptible nod Malik gives her when their gazes briefly meet. If this story already has you feeling something, anger, frustration, or that burning sense of injustice, hit that like button right now. Because what happens next will change everything about how you see this case. The night of October 17th gleamed with rain, streetlights reflecting in puddles across Westwood Heights. Malik Rowe walked steadily along Maple Avenue, his leather briefcase protected under his coat. He had just finished a late dinner meeting and was heading to his car parked 2 blocks away. The neighborhood, predominantly white, affluent and gated, grew silent after 9 p.m. Most homes stood dark, except for security lights that clicked on as Malik passed. A normal night, a routine walk, until the high beams hit him from behind. "You! Stop right there." The squad car had appeared without warning, lights flashing but no siren. Officer Riley emerged first, hand already on his holster. Officer Henderson flanked from the passenger side, a flashlight beam directed straight into Malik's eyes. "Hands where I can see them, now." Malik raised his hands slowly, briefcase still clutched in one. "Good evening, officers. Is there a problem?" "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Riley demanded, approaching with caution despite Malik's compliant stance. "I'm walking to my car. I had a dinner meeting at the Grayson." Henderson scoffed. "Grayson? You expect us to believe you were dining at the Grayson?" "Yes, you can call and confirm if ID, now." Riley's tone left no room for discussion. Malik carefully moved to reach for his wallet. "My identification is in my—" "He's reaching," Henderson shouted, drawing his weapon. "Hands up, don't move. I was just on the ground, now." The rain soaked through Malik's cashmere coat as they forced him face down onto the wet pavement. His briefcase, containing classified documents, skidded across the sidewalk, landing in a puddle. "Please, my case contains important—" A knee pressed between his shoulder blades. "Shut up. You have the right to remain silent. Use it." They never asked what brought him to the neighborhood. Never verified his dinner reservation. Never called the Grayson, where the staff would have confirmed he'd spent 3 hours with the Deputy Attorney General discussing a joint task force. Instead, they searched his pockets roughly, tossing his wallet and phone onto the wet ground beside him. When they found his business cards, plain white with only his name and a phone number, Henderson laughed. "Look at this. Malik Rowe. Trying to sound important with these fancy cards." The handcuffs clicked too tight, pinching nerves. Standard procedure called for checking ID before detention. Standard procedure required reasonable suspicion. Standard procedure meant treating citizens with basic dignity. None of that happened here. "Found anything?" Riley asked, rifling through the now-soaked briefcase. "Nothing but papers, probably fake documents." Those fake documents carried classification levels neither officer was authorized to view. Malik remained silent, watching rainwater wash across pages marked "Confidential, Operation Justice Blind." "What's your real reason for being here?" Riley demanded, hauling Malik to his feet. "Several homes reported break-ins last week. You match the description." "What description?" Malik asked quietly. Henderson smirked. "You know, male, black, where you don't belong." In the squad car, they didn't activate the dashboard camera, didn't call in the detention, didn't follow a single protocol designed to protect citizens' rights or document police actions. "Bet you thought you were smart," Riley said, watching Malik in the rearview mirror. "Walking around in that fancy coat, carrying that leather case. Playing dress-up doesn't change what you are." Malik's reflection revealed nothing. No anger, no fear, no indication that this humiliation touched him. His eyes remained focused, observant, recording every word, every action, every violation. At the station, the desk sergeant glanced up briefly. "What'd you bring in?" Suspicious character in Westwood Heights. Resisted questioning. No one asked for evidence. No one questioned the absence of charges. No one noticed the silent man memorizing names, badge numbers, timestamps, and procedural violations. They took his belongings, his belt, his shoelaces, standard procedure for processing, and placed him in a holding cell for the night. The concrete bench offered no comfort. The overhead light never dimmed. Throughout the night, officers passed by, some pausing to stare or comment. "Got yourself in trouble, huh? Should have stayed in your own neighborhood." Each word, each laugh, each violation added to the mental record Malik compiled with perfect clarity, a record these officers didn't realize would soon become evidence. Back in courtroom 14B, the prosecution rests its case with a confident nod from ADA Paulson. The evidence presented seems straightforward. A suspicious individual in an affluent neighborhood, officers responding to recent break-ins, and a defendant who allegedly couldn't provide a legitimate reason for his presence. Judge Watts turns to the defense table. Miss Chen, you may call your first witness. Maya Chen rises, her petite frame belying the force of her approach. The defense calls Officer James Riley to the stand. Riley returns to the witness box, his earlier smugness slightly dimmed. He glances at his partner Henderson, who gives an encouraging nod. Officer Riley, Maya begins, you testified that you stopped Mr. Rowe because he matched the description of a suspect in recent burglaries. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. Please tell the court what that description entailed. Riley shifts. Male, black, approximately 6 feet tall. Anything else? Age, weight, distinctive features, clothing? No, that was the description we had. Maya nods thoughtfully. So you stopped my client, a black man walking in Westwood Heights, based solely on his race and gender? Objection. Paulson stands. Mischaracterization. I'm merely repeating the officer's own statement, Your Honor. Overruled. The witness will answer. Riley's jaw tightens. We had reasonable suspicion based on the neighborhood's history. Maya approaches the evidence table. Your report states you observed Mr. Rowe acting suspiciously. What specific suspicious behavior did you witness? He was walking slowly, looking at houses. Walking slowly is suspicious? In that context, yes. Maya produces a document. I have here the weather report from October 17th showing heavy rainfall between 8 p.m. and midnight. Might that explain his pace? The questions continue, each one revealing another hole in the officer's account. Why wasn't the detention properly logged? Why wasn't his ID checked before arrest? Why was his property searched without warrant or consent? With each question, Riley's testimony crumbles further. The jury notices. Several members lean forward, watching the officer's growing discomfort with evident interest. Throughout this methodical dismantling, Malik remains composed. Once, when Riley claims Malik was confrontational, a subtle smile crosses Malik's face, gone so quickly that only Judge Watts seems to notice. Officer Riley, Maya continues, the restaurant where my client denied that evening, the Grayson, is located 3 blocks from where you stopped him. Did you or Officer Henderson contact Grayson to verify his statement? No, we did not. Why not? We deemed it unnecessary given his behavior. Maya produces a receipt. This confirms Mr. Rowe dined at the Grayson from 6:30 to 9:15 p.m. on October 17th. His car was parked 2 blocks away, directly on his walking path when you stopped him. For the first time, uncertainty flickers across Riley's face. From the gallery, a suited man enters quietly, passing a note to the bailiff, who delivers it to Judge Watts. She reads it, her expression changing subtly before she folds it carefully and places it aside. Your Honor, Maya says, I'd like to enter into evidence phone records showing that my client attempted to call his office from the police station 3 times, but was denied access to his phone. His office? Officer Riley scoffs. What office would that be? Judge Watts raises an eyebrow at the officer's tone. Mr. Riley, you will refrain from commentary. Have you ever had to remain calm when everything inside you wanted to speak out? When you knew the truth but had to wait for the right moment to reveal it? As Maya continues her questioning, more suited individuals slip quietly into the courtroom, taking positions near the doors. Their presence draws curious glances, adding to the growing sense that Malik Rowe is not who the officers assumed him to be. Back in courtroom 14B, the prosecution rests its case with a confident nod from ADA Paulson. The evidence presented seems straightforward. A suspicious individual in an affluent neighborhood, officers responding to recent break-ins, and a defendant who allegedly couldn't provide a legitimate reason for his presence. Judge Watts turns to the defense table. Miss Chen, you may call your first witness. Maya Chen rises, her petite frame belying the force of her approach. The defense calls Officer James Riley to the stand. Riley returns to the witness box, his earlier smugness slightly dimmed. He glances at his partner Henderson, who gives an encouraging nod. Officer Riley, Maya begins, you testified that you stopped Mr. Rowe because he matched the description of a suspect in recent burglaries. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. Please tell the court what that description entailed. Riley shifts. Male, black, approximately 6 feet tall. Anything else? Age, weight, distinctive features, clothing? No, that was the description we had. Maya nods thoughtfully. So you stopped my client, a black man walking in Westwood Heights, based solely on his race and gender? Objection. Paulson stands. Mischaracterization. I'm merely repeating the officer's own statement, Your Honor. Overruled. The witness will answer. Riley's jaw tightens. We had reasonable suspicion based on the neighborhood's history. Maya approaches the evidence table. Your report states you observed Mr. Rowe acting suspiciously. What specific suspicious behavior did you witness? He was walking slowly, looking at houses. Walking slowly is suspicious? In that context, yes. Maya produces a document. I have here the weather report from October 17th, showing heavy rainfall between 8 p.m. and midnight. Might that explain his pace? The questions continue, each one revealing another hole in the officer's account. Why wasn't the detention properly logged? Why wasn't his ID checked before arrest? Why was his property searched without warrant or consent? With each question, Riley's testimony crumbles further. The jury notices. Several members lean forward, watching the officer's growing discomfort with evident interest. Throughout this methodical dismantling, Malik remains composed. Once, when Riley claims Malik was confrontational, a subtle smile crosses Malik's face, gone so quickly that only Judge Watts seems to notice. Officer Riley, Maya continues, the restaurant where my client denied that evening, the Grayson, is located 3 blocks from where you stopped him. Did you or Officer Henderson contact Grayson to verify his statement? No, we did not. Why not? We deemed it unnecessary given his behavior. Maya produces a receipt. This confirms Mr. Rowe dined at the Grayson from 6:30 to 9:15 p.m. His car was parked 2 blocks away, was parked directly on his walking path when you stopped him. For the first time, uncertainty flickers across Riley's face. From the gallery, a suited man enters quietly, passing a note to the bailiff, who delivers it to Judge Watts. She reads it, her expression changing subtly before she folds it carefully and places it aside. Your Honor, Maya says, I'd like to enter into evidence phone records showing that my client attempted to call his office from the police station 3 times but was denied access to his phone. His office? Officer Riley scoffs. What office would that be? Judge Watts raises an eyebrow at the officer's tone. Mr. Riley, you will refrain from commentary. Have you ever had to remain calm when everything inside you wanted to speak out? When you knew the truth but had to wait for the right moment to reveal it? As Maya continues her questioning, more suited individuals slip quietly into the courtroom, taking positions near the doors. Their presence draws curious glances, adding to the growing sense that Malik Rowe is not who the officers assumed him to be. Judge Watts returns from the bench conference, her expression transformed. The authority she's wielded throughout the trial suddenly seems borrowed rather than owned. In light of new information, she announces, this court grants the defense's motion to introduce classified evidence. Before we proceed, I must instruct everyone present that the information about to be disclosed falls under national security protocols. Recording devices must be turned off immediately. Court officers move through the gallery, ensuring compliance. The suited individuals stationed around the courtroom touch their earpieces, receiving confirmation of security measures. Maya Chen stands. Your Honor, with the court's permission, my client would like to address the court directly. For the first time, Riley and Henderson exchange worried glances. Something in the judge's tone, in the heightened security, in the deferential treatment suddenly being shown to a man they'd mocked for 24 hours, triggers alarm bells. You may proceed, Mr. Rowe, Judge Watts says, her formal address carrying a new note of respect. Malik Rowe rises. His posture, straight-backed, shoulders squared, hasn't changed, but somehow he now occupies more space. The rumpled suit from his night in custody no longer diminishes him. Instead, the contrast between his treatment and his bearing becomes starker. The courtroom falls silent. Jurors lean forward. Even the court reporter's fingers hover motionless above her stenotype. Malik buttons his jacket with deliberate calm. When he speaks, his voice fills the room without effort, a voice accustomed to command. Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to begin by correcting the record. He turns to face the entire courtroom, not just the bench. My name is not Malik Rowe. A murmur ripples through the gallery. My name is Elijah Ford. I am the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The words land like thunder in the silent room. For 3 heartbeats, no one moves. Then chaos erupts. Officer Riley's face drains of color so rapidly he sways on his feet. Henderson's mouth opens and closes without sound. The prosecutor drops his pen, which rolls across the table unnoticed. In the jury box, expressions shift from confusion to shock to horrified understanding. A middle-aged juror presses her hand to her mouth. Another looks at the officers with new contempt. "Order," Judge Watts commands, but her gavel strikes with less force than before, as if she too is processing the revelation. Director Ford continues, his voice cutting through the commotion. For the past 18 months, the Bureau has been investigating patterns of civil rights violations and racial profiling in multiple jurisdictions. When reports from Westwood Heights showed statistical anomalies in detention rates, I made the decision to conduct field verification personally. Riley grips the edge of his chair, knuckles white. His eyes dart to the exits where FBI agents now stand guard. The operation, Ford explains, required authentic conditions. No special treatment, no interference, just a black man walking through an affluent neighborhood to see how law enforcement would respond. The prosecutor finally finds his voice. "Your Honor, this is unprecedented. If the defendant, if Director Ford was conducting an official investigation, why weren't proper channels followed? Why wasn't my office informed?" Director Ford turns his gaze to Paulson. "That's precisely what we're investigating, Mr. Paulson. The breakdown occurs when proper channels fail to address systemic issues, when reports are filed and ignored, when complaints disappear, when statistics are manipulated." From his briefcase, the same one Henderson tossed into a puddle, Ford produces a folder. This contains 18 months of data showing that black citizens in Westwood Heights are 16 times more likely to be stopped without cause than white residents. It shows that complaints of officer misconduct are routinely classified as unfounded without investigation. The power in the room shifts visibly. Officers who stood tall now seem to shrink. Those who spoke loudly now remain silent. The man they degraded now controls the narrative completely. Judge Watts clears her throat. "Director Ford, while the court appreciates the unusual nature of this situation, I must ask, what is your purpose in revealing your identity now, rather than when you were first detained?" Ford nods, acknowledging the fair question. "Your Honor, had I identified myself at the time of arrest, I would have received special treatment, defeating the purpose of our investigation. Every indignity I experienced, every right violated, every mockery endured has been documented as evidence of a pattern that affects countless citizens who don't have the protection of a badge." He turns toward Riley and Henderson. "These officers didn't just arrest me without cause. They denied basic procedural protections. They created false reports. They shared unauthorized photos and videos of a detainee. They mocked and humiliated a citizen in their custody, and they did so because they believed there would be no consequences." The courtroom remains stunned as the full implications become clear. This isn't just embarrassment for 2 officers. This is exposure to an entire system. The impact of Director Ford's revelation detonates through the justice system like a shockwave. Within hours of the courtroom disclosure, both officers Riley and Henderson are placed on immediate administrative leave pending investigation. Their badges and service weapons are collected as they exit the courthouse, not through the officers' entrance they've used for years, but through the public doors where cameras and reporters now gather. "No comment," Riley mutters, shielding his face from the flashing lights. The same social media platforms that hours earlier amplified their mockery now broadcast their disgrace to millions. By evening, the Department of Justice announces a full civil rights investigation into the Westwood Heights Police Department. Teams of federal investigators arrive, seizing records, interviewing officers, and installing monitoring systems on department computers. At the FBI field office, Director Ford conducts a press conference. The wrinkled suit is gone, replaced by a perfectly tailored dark blue ensemble that commands respect without demanding it. Camera flashes highlight the red marks still visible on his wrists where handcuffs are bit too tight. "What happened to me happens to countless Americans every day," he states, his voice measured yet powerful. The difference is I had the resources and position to expose it. Most citizens don't. The press corps remains unusually silent as he continues. This operation revealed failures at every level of the justice system. Officers who profile citizens based on race, booking procedures that violate constitutional rights, prosecutors who file charges without examining evidence, and a culture that normalizes mockery and dehumanization of those in custody. Across town, Police Chief Michael Brennan announces his early retirement, effective immediately. 3 judges who routinely approved warrants based on vague racial descriptions requested temporary leaves of absence. The courthouse clerk who shared videos of Ford is terminated within 24 hours. The mayor establishes an emergency police oversight committee, appointing civil rights attorneys and community leaders who had previously been ignored. Funding is approved for body cameras, implicit bias training, and community engagement programs that had languished on waiting lists for years. For Henderson and Riley, the consequences extend beyond professionals. Their social media accounts are filled with messages from former classmates, neighbors, and even family members expressing shock and disappointment. The officers who once walked confidently through the community now keep their heads down at grocery stores, avoiding eye contact. At the FBI headquarters, analysts compile evidence gathered during Ford's detention, recordings from hidden microphones, timestamp comparisons showing procedural violations, and psychological evaluations of officer behavior when they believed no one of consequence was watching. The most revealing moments, Ford explains to his team, weren't the big violations. They were the small ones, the casual comments, the normalized disrespect, the complete certainty that they could treat a black man this way without consequences. The investigation expands beyond individual officers to examine the system itself. Records reveal that of 342 civilian complaints filed regarding racial profiling in the past 5 years, 0 resulted in disciplinary action. Internal affairs investigators discover hidden quotas for arrests in certain neighborhoods and unofficial competitions among officers for detaining suspicious individuals. Judge Watts, whose reputation for fairness now hangs by a thread, announces new courtroom protocols requiring officers to articulate specific behaviors rather than vague descriptions when justifying stops and arrests. This case has forced me to examine my own blind spots, she admits in a written statement. I failed to question patterns that should have been obvious. That failure stops today. For the citizens of Westwood Heights, particularly those who had filed complaints that vanished into administrative black holes, Ford's operation represents validation of experiences long dismissed as oversensitivity or playing the race card. Community forums overflow with attendees sharing similar stories, now received with new credibility. The most significant change, however, comes in the invisible calculations that govern daily life. Officers think twice before making stops based on fitting a description. Prosecutors scrutinize police reports with newfound skepticism. Judges question assertions previously accepted as fact. And somewhere in Westwood Heights, a black teenager walks home after dark without altering his route to pass by police stations just to be safe. A small freedom most never realized was exceptional. 1 month after the revelation, Director Elijah Ford stands at a podium in the Justice Department's Great Hall. The audience includes lawmakers, civil rights leaders, law enforcement officials, and community organizers from across the nation. The room falls silent as he approaches the microphone. I've been asked repeatedly why I chose to remain silent during my detention, Ford begins. Why I endured a night in a cell, the mockery, the violation of my rights, when a single phone call would have ended immediately. He pauses, scanning the faces before him. The answer is simple. Because millions of Americans can't make that call. They don't have a badge or title that grants them immediate respect. Their dignity depends entirely on the conscience of those with power over them. The room remains still, absorbing his words. When those officers arrested me without cause, photographed me without consent, denied me my constitutional rights, and shared my humiliation for entertainment, they weren't just mistreating one man. They were revealing how they treat anyone they deem unworthy of basic dignity. On screens behind him, statistics appear. Numbers representing disparities in arrest rates, conviction lengths, use of force incidents. Cold data that illuminates warm human suffering. My silence wasn't passive acceptance, it was active documentation. Every dismissive comment, every procedural violation, every moment of mockery became evidence in a case much larger than my individual experience. In the audience, faces reflect varying emotions. Recognition from some who have lived similar experiences, discomfort from others confronting uncomfortable truths, determination from those committed to change. The true measure of justice isn't how we treat the powerful, the connected, or the privileged, Ford continues. It's how we treat those we believe cannot fight back. It's what happens in moments when we think no one consequential is watching. He steps away from the podium, moving closer to the audience. That night in Westwood Heights revealed character, not just of individual officers but of systems designed to protect some citizens while controlling others. When I was just Malik Rowe, a black man in the wrong neighborhood, I became invisible as a human being, while simultaneously hyper-visible as a threat. Ford gestures toward a group of community members seated in the front row. These citizens have filed complaints for years. They've recorded incidents, gathered witnesses, followed every proper channel, yet their experiences were dismissed as anomalies or exaggerations. It took the director of the FBI experiencing the same treatment to force acknowledgement of what they've always known. His voice lowers, compelling everyone to lean forward. That reality should disturb us all. Justice delayed for some means justice denied for all. When we create two systems, one for those with power and another for those without, we corrupt the very foundation of our society. The cameras track Ford as he returns to the podium for his conclusion. The reforms now implemented in Westwood Heights represent just one community, one department, one courthouse. But this isn't about a few officers or a single jurisdiction. This is about examining the assumptions that guide our daily judgments. Who belongs where, who deserves respect, whose story we believe without question. He places his hands on the podium, leaning forward with quiet intensity. My position granted me the luxury of strategic patience. I could wait for the right moment to reveal my identity because I knew that moment would come. Most citizens targeted by prejudice have no such assurance. Their calls for justice echo without response. Their evidence disappears. Their dignity is never restored. Ford straightens, his posture reflecting the weight of his office and the gravity of his message. The question before us isn't whether bias exists in our justice system. The evidence is irrefutable. The question is whether we have the courage to confront it, not just in others, but in ourselves, in our assumptions, in our silence when we witness injustice. The silence following his final words stretches for several seconds before the room erupts in a standing ovation that bridges political divides, professional roles, and personal experiences. What would you have done in Ford's position? Would you have revealed your identity immediately? Or would you have remained silent to expose the deeper issues? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to hear this message about justice, dignity, and the power of revealing truth at the right moment.